Hi guys, Pistol Pete here for Hucking Aces. Today we're going to be talking about the very basics of disc golf. So let's start with the most basic question there is. What is disc golf? Well, like the name implies, it's a lot like regular ball golf. The chief difference is that instead of using a ball and clubs to get your using clubs to get your ball all the way down to a hole, you're instead throwing discs at a target, which is usually going to be a basket with chains hanging from it, but sometimes can be spray painted marks on a tree or a pole or a road cone or whatever you've got available. That's one of the beautiful things about disc golf. You can play it absolutely anywhere. So let's take a second now to talk a little bit about the discs. Here are two discs right here. As you can see, they're a little bit different. They're definitely different from normal beach frisbees, but there are also some differences between these two discs themselves. This one is a driver. It's nice and flat, and you can see on the side right here that it's got a really nice steep angle for the rim. When you flip it over, you can see that this rim is nice and thick, and the top is actually really thin. So thin that you can almost see through it. You can probably see the light and the shadow of my hand. That makes all of the weight of this disc right here in the rim. And that's going to come into play a lot later. We'll talk about that in a second. This is a putter. Now, as you can see, the difference between the driver and the putter is going to be way thicker. And even though there's a little bit of an angle to the rim, it's not very great. It's a much more rounded rim. And the outside is a good deal thinner. You can see the difference between how thick this side is and how thick this rim is. And that's going to affect the way the discs fly. This one is going to float through the air much more, and it's not going to be spinning quite as fast as the driver. Again, we'll cover how the disc flies in a little bit, but this is going to be used, just like in ball golf, for putting and approach. That means all of your closer shots are probably going to use a disc a lot like this. All of your further shots, your shots off the tee pad that you need to go farther, are going to be using a driver. And then there's a third disc called a mid-range, which is going to be a lot like the irons in ball golf, and it's going to be used for all those shots in between. Usually if you're on the fairway, or maybe not on the fairway and you're off to the side, but you're not really close enough to use a putter, that's when you'd use a mid-range. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about how the disc flies now. Like I said, with this rim here, all the weight in the outside of the disc is going to mean that the disc is going to spin faster. We're going to start talking about the drives, because those are the very first shots you're going to take. Now, as this comes out of your hand, and if you're a right-handed player and you're throwing like a normal, just like you would a beach frisbee, it's called a backhand throw. So you would be a right-hand backhand thrower. The disc is going to come out of your hand and it's going to be spinning clockwise. Now the faster you throw it, the faster the disc is going to spin. A lot of times you want to try and get a nice snap of your wrist to really make sure this thing is spinning fast. Now, what does that spin do? Without complicating it too much, because we're going to do a different video about flight numbers and things like that, the spin of the disc basically keeps it straight. If you want to think about it like a football, when you see a quarterback throw a football and he's got a nice tight spiral and that ball is just spinning, it's going straight and he's got a lot of control and accuracy with it. When you throw a disc with a lot of spin, you're getting the exact same thing. That centripetal motion of the disc is keeping it stable in the air, and it's keeping it nice, tight, and controlled, and that's exactly what you want in a game like disc golf. The putter is going to fly a little bit differently. It's still going to spin out of your hand, and you can still capitalize on that spin to get a nice straight shot, but it's not going to go as far, and the way that the disc is designed is actually going to keep it straighter longer because of the actual disc, design of the disc, and not the way you throw it so much. Technique is still important though, so don't think that you can just throw this disc and it'll go straight automatically. There's a little bit of work to do, but some of it's done for you in the design. Now, one of the biggest differences between a driver and a putter is the speed that you can throw the disc. And that doesn't just mean that you can throw, your arm speed is going to be greater. It means that this disc is built for speed. So if you've got a fast arm and you can throw it, a driver is going to be able to handle that a lot better. Think about the ability to handle speeds. Think about it like this. This is like a motorcycle. This thing is built for speed. The faster you go, that disc is going to stabilize and it's not going to be shaky, and you can go 100 miles an hour with one of these and the motorcycle is going to be able to handle it just fine. This is more like a 10-speed bike. Once it gets past a certain speed, it's going to feel wobbly, and you don't really want that. So think about it kind of like that. You got your motorcycle, which thrives in the speed and is harder to control at really slow speeds. Like, you can't go and it's really hard to ride a motorcycle at 5 miles an hour. You're going to be all wobbly and stuff like that. That's when you're going to want the 10-speed bike. So let's go ahead and keep that visualization in our heads, and that'll actually help explain a lot of disc golf. Now, as far as throwing the disc, one of the things that a lot of new players, where they make their mistakes, is they try to throw their discs too far into the air, and they try to throw them too high. You don't want to do that. A good tip for throwing a disc and really trying to let the disc do what it does and capitalizing on distance that way is always try, especially when you're first starting out, because you're going to find, just like in ball golf and really any other sport, that there's a time and a place for everything. But when you're first starting out, a good rule of thumb when you're throwing a disc is to try to keep it at about head level. That'll allow it to go ahead and travel in the air, so it's not going to hit the ground and skip right away, but it's also going to keep you from throwing it up way too high and having it come down way too soon, robbing you of distance. So, now that you know a little bit about disc golf, let's figure out how to find the right discs for you so you can start out and get playing right now. Like I said, we've got drivers, we've got putters. There's a lot of great sites out there and a lot of great sporting and disc golf stores out there. Now there's some specific disc golf stores, obviously, but you can get good beginner sets at a lot of big box store things like Dick's Sporting Goods or Sports Authority. A lot of places have them. Or you can go to a disc golf shop. Definitely support the community if you can. But when you go and find a good beginner set, it's usually going to have 3 discs. You're going to have your putter, a mid-range, and your driver. So basically what it comes down to, first of all, is finding something that feels comfortable with you. If you've got a friend and he's got a lot of disc golf stuff, or she's got a lot of discs and she likes to play and wants you to come with, borrow a few of theirs. Ask to throw a couple throws with 3 or 4 of their discs, just to kind of see what feels most comfortable to you. That way you can go to a store or go online and you can find something that you already know the name of and you already know how it's going to fly a little bit for you. But if you're brand new and you just want to get into it, there's a few different ways you can do it. I recommend throwing your first round or two with just a mid-range or just a putter. As you're learning the basics of the throw, these are going to be the discs that are the most forgiving. So these are the ones that you're going to be able to throw and learn on the best. And once you start getting your form down and you start getting your basics down, then you can go ahead and move up from that 10-speed bike to the motorcycle. But until then, you want to throw something so that you can basically just practice your form and work on getting this thing to fly nice and straight and getting it to do what you want. So that does it for our very first video of our beginner series about what the ins and outs of disc golf are. If you have any questions, please post them in the comments below. Make sure to continue checking out our beginners work week on Facebook. I'll post a link in the show notes. And thank you so much for watching. We've got a lot more content and a lot more videos with tips, tricks, and techniques so we can start diving deeper into disc golf. Thanks a lot, and go ahead and start hucking aces.